We have done what nobody else has done before. We took the reigning Hyrox World Champion Alex Roncevic and put him through a grueling Hyrox open race simulation with the spirometry, VO2 master and lactate measurements to explain why he again will win the Hyrox World Championships. Probably. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Rework Explains. In this episode, Hyrox World Championship. So, who are we? Rework, coaching company from Austria, and we did what, as far as we know, nobody else has ever done before. We took the VO2 master device, a super portable, state-of-the-art spirometry measurement device, as well as lactate measurements, and put reigning Hyrox World Champion Alex Roncevic through a Hyrox open race simulation. Then we did the same with former pro triathlete Franz in order to find out what's the difference between a Hyrox pro champ and an elite long distance endurance athlete. Franz is now training Hyrox for a few months and he's seen tremendous performance improvements. But as we will see in this test, he's not quite at the level where Ronce is at, and we will try to explain with a little bit of data here and there why he will probably again come out on top in this year's Hyrox World Championships taking place tomorrow in Chicago. So let's dive in. First of all, what we see here is Franz Löschke's VO2 and lactate time series throughout the open race simulation. In blue, you see his oxygen consumption, his VO2 over time, and the red crosses are his lactate measurements. We won't dive in too deep in this video. I've done previous videos where we dug way deeper, but for these purposes, we look at the shape of the curve. We see that the blue areas, which are the run passages, and the brown orangey-ish areas, which are the workout parts, we see differences. During the run parts, VO2 oxygen consumption is shooting up and then steadies, sometimes increases, sometimes decreases, and lactate, on the other hand, is almost always increasing during the workout stations. We hypothesize strongly that Hyrox is a super duper endurance dominated sport. Yes, there are strength elements for sure, there's functional fitness elements for sure, whatever that means, but in the end, your engine, your ability to produce energy in a sustainable way over an hour or so, that's what's probably going to be most important. And we see that here. During the workouts, on the other hand, VO2 is a little lower, not as endurance aerobic dominated, but lactate is shooting up. So this tells us the body has to compensate for the energy flow during the workouts with another method. In this case, shooting up lactate. Lactate, a whole topic in and of itself. We'll discuss this in other videos. Actually, we have discussed this in other videos. You can click here, 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 or here. On the other hand, now we will look at how this looks for Roncevic. We see a super similar curve. So the overall shape is almost identical, which is telling us, okay, we have this super specific Hyrox champ type of athlete and this former professional triathlete, and they have almost identical curves from the perspective of the overall shape. Telling us, okay, there is something to this. There is a pattern emerging. For example, this sharp increase during the ski erg. However, Alex Roncevic did manage throughout this Hyrox open race simulation to decrease his oxygen consumption, meaning his body got substantially more efficient, economical during the second half of the simulation. Both of them were pacing at round about 75 to 80% of their maximal capabilities. Alex Roncevic in the second half of the race becoming more and more economical. And also, if we look at the lactate measurements, he is way below Franz Löschke during the workouts. The increases in lactate are way less pronounced, telling us that Alex Roncevic is an efficiency machine, which will likely get him the title this year again. What else is telling us that he's this efficiency beast? His spirometry efficiency metrics. I won't explain this too thoroughly, but for the sake of this video, if these lines tend to increase, the body is getting less efficient in terms of how it's handling oxygen. And if the line is decreasing, the body is getting more efficient. And if we look at Franz Löschke's line, pretty steady throughout the race with a tendency to increase at the very end. Roncevic's curve, on the other hand, slight increase until right about the middle of the simulation, and then a decrease again. Even though he was pacing steadily, his body got more efficient at the end. And now we look at some comparison curves from these two athletes. VO2, oxygen consumption across segments. Alex Roncevic was substantially below Franz Löschke's oxygen consumption throughout the entire race, during every run, during every workout section. So on the one hand, we could say Franz Löschke's maximal oxygen consumption, the size of his engine, is way higher than Roncevic's. But does it matter in Hyrox? I mean, yes, to a certain degree. We've seen improvements in Franz Löschke with only a few months of Hyrox-specific training that are impressive. But nonetheless, Alex Roncevic, who's been doing this sport for many years now, he's been part of the sport since the very beginning, basically. And this training approach, the specificity of his training, it shows. Our strong hypothesis, substantiated by the first ever Hyrox study, which has been published, and we analyzed this, and also our very own Hyrox study, to be published soon, we hypothesize it's an endurance-dominated sport. 70-80%, I don't know, make up a number yourself, will be, of the performance will be coming from your quote-unquote aerobic endurance base. And Alex Roncevic's maximal endurance capacity, medium to long-term endurance capacity, is likely lower than Franz Löschke's. His VO2 max is lower, his running economy at certain speeds, his running performance is lower. But he is so efficient. He needs to breathe way less oxygen than Franz Löschke. And this preserves energy. This doesn't push his body into this danger red zone where we see the burnout, the hitting the wall type of stuff. And this is truly impressive. What do we see with lactate? Same story. Lactate is a super cool measurement of the metabolic demand, the metabolic stress in your body, how the body handles sharp increases in energy demand, how the body buffers acidity in the muscle, in the cell, and the body's ability to decrease lactate throughout a high intensity race is a good thing. But if we see an athlete being way lower in lactate than another one, this tells us, okay, this body is experiencing way less stress. And then something super interesting, the running economy. Franz Löschke was running way faster than Alex Roncevic during this simulation. We talk round about 3:30 minute per kilometer pace for Löschke and around a 3:45-ish pace for Roncevic. And even though it's hard to compare running economy when taking different speeds, this is a little wacky, I admit it. But nonetheless, even running economy-wise, Roncevic outperforms Löschke in this test. So what's the bottom line here? We were blown away by these results, yeah? We knew that Alex Roncevic, the reigning world champ, is a top-notch Hyrox athlete. Duh. But seeing where this performance is probably mainly coming from, not the absolute size of his engine, not his absolute strength, not his absolute running performance economy, but this specific demand of the race, the specificity of his training, the way his body handles the specific demands of Hyrox. This is where he shines. He's able to maintain a steady milieu in his body, he's able to, in the second half of the race, in the last third of the race, to still smash those workouts to keep a steady run pace. And this is where he outperforms his competitors. So we predict he will very likely come out on top again in tomorrow's Hyrox World Champion race in Chicago, substantiated by these breaking science data. Nobody has done this before. We are testing all kinds of athletes. We are assembling a huge database of these kinds of tests in order to bring to you guys how to best train for Hyrox, to bust some myths out there, to maybe, hopefully, likely get rid of all these CrossFit type workouts and focus on what's really important: a strong endurance base, albeit on the high intensity side, and tons of specificity. What this means exactly, we'll save for another video. For now, let's all stay tuned for tomorrow's race. Let's see what Roncevic is going to deliver, and also let's see how Franz, our very own ex-triathlon pro, how he will stack up against the best of the best athletes in Chicago. For now, I'm out. Thanks for watching, and rework.